Eris Astrology comes alive once a year when the goddess of discord goes into retrograde. This is the time when we end up deciding, do we want to fit in or do we be loyal to ourselves and authentic? Today, Liz and I are going to be exploring essential oils and aromatherapy blends to help you work with the dwarf planet Eris. How are you today, Liz?
I'm excited to do this today, Adam, because I think this really delves into what I love, classical mythology, but also fascinating astrology.
And that's one thing I wanted to really point out. People may be wondering, they may have been watching our series for quite a while now. Why are we going on to talk about dwarf planets? So, this is a really interesting aspect of astrology. We have our traditional astrology where we know our common planets, but it's not just the common planets that are in the sky. In fact, in between Mars and Jupiter, there is what's called the asteroid belt, and that's where we find asteroids of various sizes. The biggest in there is called Ceres, and then we have ones like Pallas Athena and Juno and Vesta and so on. And these all help us to dig a little bit deeper into our astrology. What I love about the asteroids as well is that they allow us to look at more feminine archetypes within our personality as well. So then, what's really interesting, we knew that the year 2000 was going to be a big year, and that it kind of meant a shift in human consciousness. And astrology and astronomy did not let us down, because after 2000, they started to discover more dwarf planets similar to Pluto, which got downgraded to a dwarf, beyond. And these dwarf planets help us to tap into the higher realms of consciousness and these other more humanitarian, community based themes. And that's what we're going to kind of explore in each of these. So today we're going to explore one known as Eris. She is about the same size as Pluto, but a little bit heavier. So she's kind of has as much pull as Pluto. It just took us a little bit longer to find her. We didn't discover her till 2006. Now she's been named after a Greek or Roman goddess. But what I do love about the other dwarf planets that we will dive into in future episodes is that we've actually started to name them about from gods and goddesses from mythologies all around the world. And I'm not just talking about ancient Egypt or Hindu. I'm talking like South African and West African and different Native American tribes, Easter Island tribes, all these really interesting religions, which is showing that opening up of our consciousness to explore, other archetypes and other deities that exist beyond that kind of Greco-Roman tradition that we're used to in astrology. So I think these conversations are going to be really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Um, she is a goddess, but she doesn't have, we don't see temples of her in ancient Greece. Um, she doesn't have many myths associated with her. There's a couple, but the famous one is really the ancient Greeks saw her as the catalyst that started the Trojan War. So the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, who will go on to be Achilles' parents, was taking place, and all the preparations were put in place. You can imagine people doing the seating plan, and you know how it is, like some, oh, we can't put them together because they're going to argue and what have you. And it was decided that while they were going to invite all the gods and goddesses from Olympia, they didn't want chaos there. And Eris is a Greek goddess. Her Roman name is Discordia, and she is chaos, strife, and discourse. So yeah, of course, we don't want her at a wedding, but she is somewhat annoyed about it. But one thing that we discover about Eris is that she is subtle. So rather than going in all guns blazing and shouting the odds, she thinks, well, what is the most effective way that I can cause trouble? And she says, I'm going to set up a contest. And what she does is she waits till the marriage party, and then she gets a golden apple and she just inscribes it to the fairest, and she throws it in amongst the goddesses. And there is Athena, Aphrodite, and tell me who else, because she's gone right out my head for a minute.
Is it Hera or is it someone
And
else?
Hera, yeah, Hera, yeah, and Hera promises. The goddesses make promises, and I'll tell you about those in a minute. But so, who is the fairest? Well, the goddesses say, "Well, it must be me. It must be me. It must be me. I am. It must be designed for me." And they say, Zeus, who do you think it's for? And Zeus goes, you are kidding. I'm not getting involved in that. That just looks like trouble to me. Why don't we ask the Prince of Sparta, the Prince of Troy? He's come all the way to Sparta to the wedding. Let's ask young Paris. And Athena says, well, if you pick me, I'll give you all the wisdom you need and the strategies to win all the wars. I mean, it's good. It's a good promise. And Juno, Hera, says, well, I'll give you exceptionally good judgment. And he's like, sounds good. I'm not feeling it. And Aphrodite says, how about the hand of the most beautiful woman in the world? And he's like, Helen. Helen is the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Troy. And she's all right. Yeah, if you want Helen. Well, the problem is Helen is already married to Menelaus. But Paris says, well, no, rightfully she's mine. And Aphrodite says, well, yeah, I did promise her. So he steals her away. And of course, Menelaus is furious about the whole thing. And he decides that he will call upon the Achaeans and the Danaans, which are what the ancient Greeks were called. And he cites an oath, the oath of the suitors, which when Helen was put out for bids in the beginning, everybody had made a pledge that they would always fight for her honour. And he said, you promised that you would do that, you would fight. And so he calls the chieftains. And this must happen over a period of time because the wedding is before Achilles is born, but then about 15 years later this happens and things come to a head, and Achilles is called up to go and fight, and they launch 1,000 ships. Helen's face is the face that launched 1,000 ships upon Sparta to go and regain her. So this is Eris, this tiny action with the apple, a tiny trigger action, causes absolute chaos. And the ancient Greeks looked at this as a golden age. These stories were the stories of the heroes. And of course, her actions were what made the heroes. So that's really fascinating. What's also interesting is Hesiod also talks about Eris. He calls them this. He says there's two Erinyes. Apparently, the plural of Eris is Erinye. There's two Erinyes, and he talks about the one that causes that kind of mayhem and makes everybody argue against each other. But he also talks about how she's very vital. That she is competition. She is what makes us get up in the morning. She makes us drive forward. And then finally, Homer also talks of a story when Hercules encounters the goddess on the pathway, and he decides he doesn't want to get involved with Eris. She's strike, so he tries to beat her. And Homer describes how he starts beating her, and she starts off small, but she gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until her head is on the sky. And there's this idea that you cannot quell the rage of Eris. If you try to stand against her, she will only fight and get larger. So yeah, it's fascinating to see this goddess and then to see the translations into the new philosophy of astrology. And Adam, I think you probably explain that better than me.
So a really interesting way to kind of understand how Eris plays out in our astrology is to kind of really capture the theme of fitting in and keeping quiet versus creating conflict and creating strife. Now, normally when we look at the placement of a planet or a dwarf planet or an asteroid, we can look at which sign it is in when we were born. But because it's so far out in the solar system and its orbit takes so long, for every single person that's on this earth right now, it's in Aries. So Aries is all about selfhood. And so there's this real Eris in all of us triggers this kind of trouble and conflict within us of, I want you to think about, we all have these instances where something bugs us and we're like, do I say something and do I rock the boat or do I just shut up and fit in? Eris is, kind of like that kid at school, and we probably all relate to that at some point, and possibly more those that watch this series, because how much do I embrace my individuality and my authenticity, and how much do I just kind of hide my little quirks and different things like that? Eris kind of brings that up in us, and that kind of conflict in us all the time. Now, if you do want to kind of see where she'll play out in your life, instead of looking at which sign she's in, as I said, she's in Aries, you can look at which house she's in. And that's a whole nother video that we'll have to tackle another time. But what happens is when we all become conscious of this Eris impact is when she goes into retrograde. So when a planet or a dwarf planet or an asteroid goes into retrograde, what happens is they withdraw their energy away from Earth. And so Eris, who helps us to deal with this balance of fitting in versus standing out, we start to question that and go, hold on, am I being too quiet? Am I being, you know, especially, Eris has she's very much about women's empowerment. She has a real strong feminine streak. And women, do you speak up as a woman? We think about women in the workplace and, the glass ceilings when it comes to women getting paid equally and different things like that. That's all this kind of Eris theme. But we all personally will find, especially around a retrograde, right, do I rock the boat or do I shut up? And Eris helps us to find that balance and work out the advantage of understanding our Eris in our own birth chart and in our own astrology, and then working with essential oils through this, is allowing us to feel empowered and go, no, I'm choosing not to speak, or I'm choosing to rock the boat and cause strife and discord because I'm doing it from a conscious level rather than an unconscious level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does completely. And I think you're right. I think when we're looking at astrology, there's almost three different levels happening. There's, as you say, there's where it is in your house. That personal thing is Aries, my first house, my second house, my third house. I did the maths. I don't think everybody will be Eris in Aries. Did she go in 1922? So if you were born before 1922, I guess there are people who are like 100, 304, 105 still living. They would be very, very old. But I think, just in case somebody decides to tackle that, I think you're probably wrong. But yeah, the orbit is 557 years, so it's enormous. I think does she move about 14 degrees every 14 years or something like that, but very small. And so you've got this as you're talking about, this microcosmal part of, right, she's touching me, do I speak up? Then also you've got on the macrocosm, her job is to move consciousness about the person that has been ostracized, who has been left out. And so yes, from a feminist point of view, the rise of women, but I think also from any kind of intersectionality point of view. So when you look at her transits and like when she's gone retrograde, you can see that first of all there was the Occupy movement started, and then we see Black Lives Matter, and then we see the Me Too movement. So you can see these things mapping out of, you can't leave me out. You can't do that. And so I think it's fascinating because when she goes retrograde, not only does she talk to you about, well, am I speaking up about the way that I'm being treated? But also she questions society. What part did you play in oppressing others? And she is in retrograde now as we speak. I think that's right. As we're recording, I think she went in July, will stay there till January. And what was strange was when I was doing the reading up, I was like, this is so strange because I've really been feeling this sort of weight of being a middle class white English woman who has been part of that bloodline that has oppressed so many people, this like inherent guilt. And her job is to bring that up and to say, well, you can see your part in these things, so what are you doing to strike out against that? So I think it's a really fascinating time.
Now, one really easy way to get an understanding of this kind of Eris theme is if you watch the movie Maleficent. Now, basically, Maleficent, same kind of scenario. She is, she's known as being this evil witch. But, as we watch the movie, you kind of realize, well, she's justified in what she did. They left her out. They excluded her. They treated her badly in that way. So it kind of shows you the other side of the wicked witch kind of persona as well. So if you want to really grasp this, how it feels to be Eris, and I think we all can relate to that time when we feel left out. And what do we do? Do we just pack our bags and go home, or do we cause trouble? And when do we speak up? When do we not? In that type of way. So obviously we love talking about essential oils. So there's 3 essential oils that I tend to find really, really beautiful to work with Eris. Now, the first one is kind of helps us to honor that rebel within, to honor that kind of accept that we are different and to appreciate that, because when we do get left out, when we are one of the others and not one of the in crowd type of thing, that can be upsetting. It can cause us, it can impact our self-esteem, our worth, and things like this. Reach for Kunzia. Kunzia is this beautiful oil that has this inner rebel kind of energy in it, and allows you to go, we're not all the same. That's absolutely fine. There are other parts in astrology and other archetypes where we really want to celebrate being different. And Kunzia allows you to feel really comfortable in going, okay, well, I don't have to fit in. Sometimes I'm going to be different to other people. I had the privilege of seeing Mel Robbins talk recently, and it just popped into my head. Mel Robbins has this great idea of let them. Whatever they're doing, whether they're going out without you or whether they're talking about you or whatever, you can get caught up in that, or you can just let them. And you get on with your path. And Kunzia is an amazing let them oil going, I'm going to do what I want to do and I'm going to walk my path because I'm here to fulfill a certain purpose, which may not be in alignment with other people's as well. So by diffusing this, it's also a really great one for aches and pains. It's really gentle on the skin, especially if you're constantly needing to put essential oils on. Really beautiful to work with. Just to take away that pressure and that tension of feeling excluded and to actually embrace it. It would also work with other archetypes that have been excluded, things like archetypes like Lilith as well. Kunzia works really well with her, but I love it for the Eris in that way. Does that make sense, Liz?
Yeah, it does completely. So just quickly talk about the safety of Kunzia. It's a very easy oil to use. Maximum dilution 3%, and we wouldn't use it in the first 16 weeks of pregnancy, but you can use it topically just as long as you dilute it well. So what else have you been thinking of?
So the other thing is, obviously, I know, I've had instances, and even in the last couple of years, it's been quite prominent where I've felt left out. I went through a breakup where me and my last partner were together for 13 years. We had mutual friends, and when you break up, people tend to, unfortunately, just take sides. And you see things on social media of like, oh, I've been uninvited or I've been left out because they've gone that way in that type of thing as well. And that can create anger. So this is where one of my favorite oils for anger and working with Eris is really beautiful, and that's cardamom. So cardamom as a seed oil, I talk about it in my book, Gifts of Essential Oils. Seed oils awaken potentiality. And I want you to think about anger and I want you to think about passion. They're both fiery, but what's the difference? You see, anger doesn't have an outlet and it's frustrated and it starts to eat us up. Whereas passion, it does have an outlet and it can be really constructive. And cardamom helps to turn that fiery energy into, because we use cardamom physically for the respiratory system to breathe easier, for the digestive system to digest easier, and even for circulation to get the blood flowing better as well. So it allows that fiery feeling within us when we are feeling vengeful or rageful, as that Eris archetype can awaken within us, and allows us to channel that into proactive or productive ways. So working with this when you find that you can relate to that Eris archetype can be really powerful to go, okay, rather than causing trouble, how can I cause some positive change? And Eris does have that bringing change, bringing liberation, bringing people back together when there has been exclusion, or even going and collecting up all the other people that have been excluded and creating your own community and making new friends, if that makes sense as well. So I love cardamom from that aspect of Eris.
Cardamom, I think that it has the most beautiful vibration of being, look how far you've come, and just be comfortable in yourself. I think in any kind of like psychological journey, psychic journey, it feels like sometimes you feel like you're the loser. And cardamon's really good for any kind of situation like that. So I think it's a great choice. Again, I will say you must dilute it, but 3%, and again, safe really, unless you are in the first 16 weeks of pregnancy.
Amazing. Now, the third oil that I love, so I'm going to give you three for this dwarf planet, oregano or oregano. This is an amazing oil. It's really great. You know, in the body, what does it do? It gets rid of things that don't serve us. It's powerfully antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. I say it's just anti-blooming everything kind of thing. And so oregano has been used magically in the past to break apart regimes, to break apart cliques or groups that don't serve us. So this is on those times when we're like, okay, I've been left out. I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to stand up for myself and maybe other people who are being oppressed or left out as well. Oregano is a really empowering one. Obviously, it's a really unique smell, and we've got some great blends that we're going to share with you in a minute that Liz has created. Oregano could be blended or used by itself. Used in some way, just get its energy and its vibration around you to support you in shaking things up, in causing that trouble and that strife, because some things need to change. And Eris is very much about, you know, not just always accepting things and laying down and taking it in that way. So oregano is my third pick for working with this Eris energy. And when we're being excluded and when we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I think it's a great oil to experiment with. It is a very strong oil, so we would want a maximum dilution of 1.1%, according to Tisserand and Young 2014, which is basically, if you're lazy like me and don't like doing maths, you can do a teaspoon of carrier oil and then just one drop of oregano, which is 1%, and so you'd be under. So that would be fine. Had you thought about how you might use it? Would you use it topically, or would you use it as an inhalation? I'm interested to know.
With oregano?
Yeah.
No, I think for me personally, when I'm working with essential oils from a metaphysical point of view, it's more about getting it near you. Do you know what I mean? So whether you're applying it onto the skin, you might even want to make a blend of oregano and other oils. You might want to mix it with the cardamom and the kunzia and make that a blend to really, if you connect with this Eris sense and you're feeling left out and you want to rebel and there's that fieriness and you want to do something productive about it, you could mix them all together. Again, you could diffuse oregano. I'm a big fan of also putting oils on the soles of my feet. Oregano is one that if I'm starting to feel a bit under the weather physically, I will pop on the soles of my feet in a carrier oil. But I might also, if I'm like, right, tomorrow morning, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna shake and rattle some cages of some other people. I might do that with oregano as well. So we may even anoint crystals with it, make little charm bags with it, especially when we are going into war. Eris is related to Mars or Aries as well. Make a little charm bag where we have a bit of cotton, put a little bit of oregano and maybe a crystal like Tektite, which is formed when a meteor crashes into the earth and rattles the earth. You might want to combine them together in a little medicine bag and pop that in your pocket, or pop it in a bag, a handbag or so on, and keep it near you. That could be another way you may want to work with it as well.
I'm Elizabeth Ashley, UK Director for the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy and founder of the Aromatic Mystery School, where essential oils meet the deeper, more mystical side of healing. Here you'll explore the spiritual, emotional and energetic dimensions of plants and learn how to weave them into your own rituals and well-being practices. If you're ready to work in a way that nourishes both your soul and your senses, join us at the Aromatic Mystery School. The link's right below.
So I'll go on and talk a little bit about my oils in a moment, but I just want to ask people, if you're enjoying this content, to click the like button and please consider subscribing. But also, as we go, we're going to start showing some blends on the screen, and I would love you to write in the comment, we really like the way you did it, or we didn't like this, we could see this, we couldn't see that, so that we get really constructive feedback for today. That would be great. So I tackled this in a different way, really. I was fascinated to think, right, okay, if I am feeling this notion of, well, what part did you play in the oppression? And I feel like, as a priestess, as giving service, what oils can we use to give us guts to give voice to these things? Because I think two kind of phrases came to mind for me. The first was one by a 19th century statesman called Edmund Burke, and he said, all the evil needs to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And I thought that's a really Eris statement. And then I guess the other one, sort of in modern parlance, would be, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So to give voice to those in terms of essential oils, I was like, well, where am I going to get the fire for the tinderbox? Because I'm gutsy, but not, I always want to speak. And sometimes, though, my mouth runs away with me. And in fact, it's a family saying in our house, there's nothing wrong with Elizabeth except a gob. You know, I just sometimes can't shut up. So I thought, right, okay, let's construct this in a way that, first of all, gives us fire, gives us voice, but also says, just stop, think this out before you do. So the first, in fact, two of these oils that I've chosen, you'd say, if you asked me, I'd say I'll use them for nothing. But then I was like, no, these are the oils. So the first one is cassia. So I am afraid of cassia. It's such a fierce oil. You definitely would never want to put it on your skin. Maximum dilution is 0.05%, and I shall put it on the screen for you in a moment. So this is an oil that we are going to inhale in the smallest amount. But this is fire in your belly. This is guts when you want to speak up. Sage, common sage, Salvia vulgaris. That would be my choice for, but just think, don't self-sabotage. Remember that the Latin name of the sages is Salvia. It means the savior. So it has that warrior thing of, I am going to step forward, I'm going to save people. But sage also says, but don't be a martyr. So really, I love the vibration of sage. It's like a lighthouse. First of all, I was thinking like an owl that can look round 360 degrees, but the viewpoint, I don't know how far an owl can look. That's a very Athena kind of thing to say, but a lighthouse casts light on all the peripheral things that you should be considering. And it says, fire, we will purify. You know, this is a purifying vibration, clears the mind, clears the thoughts, gets rid of negative thoughts, but also says, let's just be sensible for a minute. So those two are really, really good. Again, it's a fearsome oil. I would never use it topically myself on females, I have to say, because it can cause heavy bleeding in some women. Great for men, great for the muscles. I can imagine it would have been fantastic for if you were going to the Trojan War. You know, this would be like fearsome, like the Myrmidons under Achilles. Vital, strong cut. I'm off to Brad Pitt. Stop. But that very strong energy, but in women it's too strong, and we would use maximum dilution of 0.4% topically. So again, I would say we're only going to use this blend as an inhalation. And then the other oil is not such a scary oil. I would put them with lemon, because lemon has the tongue of the muses. It is persuasive, it's erudite, it's concise. It finds the words to be able to state your case without being offensive. And given that you have two extremely strongly offensive, fierce oils, I would say that lemon is like Scheherazade. She could find 1,001 ways to keep herself alive through the Arabian Nights, all of them storytelling, all of them persuasive. So those would be my three oils. And of course, lemon is easy to use, maximum dilution 3%. You could use it on the skin, definitely, the lemon, but as long as you made sure that it wasn't an old oil, because they can deteriorate quite quickly. But the blend that I am going to show you, in fact, I'll show you now on the screen, is designed to put in an aroma pendant. So I would use, for the aroma pendant, 1 teaspoon of olive carrier oil, 1 drop of cassia, 2 drops of lemon, 1 drop of sage. Right, now, Adam, can we see it?
Perfect. Yep. So if you're got a bad memory and you need to take a screenshot, now's the chance to take a screenshot. Liz has made these beautiful pictures for you. So grab that.
Okay. And as you can see, I put the maximum dilutions on the side. If you did feel that I want to make that into something bigger, so I want to put it on your body, frankly, my dear, you are insane, but you would want to increase the amount of carrier oil a lot. In fact, I call this exponential, Eris, because it's just like grows and grows. To be able to get your cassia weak enough to go on the skin, you're going to want to put that into 100 ml of carrier oil. So it's really fierce. That shows, you know, big bottle. That's the really, really fierce blend. So that would be my one. Have you got any thoughts about quelling the rage at all, Ad?
Well, sometimes I think also when we do get left out, you know, there is that kind of feeling that we, like, what have I done wrong? I haven't done anything wrong. And we make it all about us, which is very Aries, which, remember, Eris is in for pretty much all of us type of thing. So I think we need to look at what can we do psychologically and rationally. I love this idea of let them do whatever they want to do, but I'm wondering if you've got some essential oils as well that could actually possibly quell this rage, because we don't want to just cause shit for shit's sake kind of thing, just because we're angry. We want to do it to make positive change and not to, you know, ostracize ourselves or remove ourselves even further from, you know, where we're feeling left out from.
Yeah, I agree. So I did make us a little blend. So first of all, I thought, well, I don't think that we can leave Achilles out of this. Eventually, this will become the destiny of Achilles' story. And, you know, we talk about him as if this tremendous hero. I'm studying the Iliad for my degree at the moment. And frankly, I would not have wanted to meet him. What a horrible person he is. He was, you know, he's just easily triggered and just the most horrible things. So I thought, right, okay, so we're going to invoke Achilles and we're going to use yarrow. So yarrow is, because I do think that we can almost see this as our emotional Achilles heel, you know, that it will come up each time. We know that she's going to bring things to the fore. So he knows about that stuff. So I thought yarrow would be a really interesting one to use. Rose, of course. Rose has an anti-conflict property, scientifically shown to stop people fighting. And I always thought that the most fantastic experiment that showed that, I think, was they experimented with people who were withdrawing from morphine and from ketamine and from heroin, that's the word I'm looking for. And that awful feeling of the writhing and how aggressive they feel when they're in withdrawal. And Rose was able to pacify that. So that's fierce, guttural stuff that it can really deal with. And then, of course, the anti-inflammatory effect of Roman chamomile. So I blended these together. So if anybody feels like, yeah, I think I need to get calm and shut Eris down, this would be my blend. 3 drops of Roman chamomile, 2 drops of rose otto essential oil. Just smells nicer than the absolute, but you could use the absolute. And 3 drops of yarrow essential oil. Maximum dilution for all of those is 3%. And I've put, do 2% for children over 2, because it is the terrible 2s. And frankly, anything to keep their peace has got to be good. But we're not going to use this in the first 37 weeks of pregnancy. We could use it just on the pulse points or on the back of the neck. And we would put those into 10 ml of grapeseed carrier oil.
Was there a reason?
Any more thoughts, Dan?
The first one you had was in olive oil. This one's in grapeseed oil. Was there a particular reason for the different carriers?
Well, only because I felt like when I was trying to put myself in the place of Eris, I felt like the Greek aspect is olive oil. But I think that, that's my favorite oil. I use olive oil for all kinds of anointing ones. But no, any kind of carrier oil will do. But I like grapeseed because it has no fragrance. Whereas olive oil can be quite fragranced, and that green fragrance can overcome some fragrances. But no, personal choice.
As I was listening to you list those oils, I love yarrow. Yarrow for me also, I know it's definitely associated, it's in the Latin name, with Achilles, but also has a really strong kind of energy around Archangel Michael. Now, Archangel Michael is a warrior angel, but we never think of Archangel Michael of being violent or aggressive or angry or that type of thing. He goes into battle for the higher good. Rose, I love it for helping us to open our heart up and drop judgment on other people. And Roman chamomile is just beautiful because it is so gentle as well. So I think it's a really nice blend for quelling and directing that rage into more productive manners. I love it. Beautiful blend.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's, I think people may, if people are still wondering, why do I need to connect with that Eris energy and these Eris essential oils? We're all going to find times, especially when Eris goes into retrograde and out of retrograde, where we're like, do I speak up? Do I shut up? Do I fit in or do I not? And Eris helps us to find where we're comfortable in those kind of different quadrants of our lives, and whether we do or we don't, and to take that rather than I'm being left out because I'm weaker or not worth it, rather than, we talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. Eris would be one who loves a bit of JOMO, the joy of missing out. I'm glad I didn't get invited to that in that type of way. I think she really helps us to also stand up for, she's such a women's empowerment archetype as well, so resonating with her as well. And this is why I love these mythologies that have all these different goddesses. Instead of just one deity, which is all being and all perfect, there's going to be times when you need to call on that Eris and find your inner Eris in your astrology, but also just as someone you can relate to. And other times you may need to summon your own inner Aphrodite or your own inner Apollo or inner Pan or whoever it may be, and draw on that archetype. And hopefully what our discussion has done today is given you some ideas of when you would call on Eris. You may have resonated with some of the things we said, something may be happening in your life right now. And these are the essential oils that we've discussed that would really help you to harmonize and work with this energy for your own self-knowledge and then for your own self-benefit as well. Would you agree?
I would, but I also think that when we're talking about these archetypes, I think you're describing them from a magical point of view, that we can make the choice to invoke her, but she's always there working behind the scenes anyway. You know, our consciousness is at the behest of her movements through the sky. So it's almost like these can be used as explanations for the ways that you are feeling at the moment. I particularly find it extremely difficult at the moment watching all of the people, like the protests and the wars and the ICE stuff. You know, all of these things that are designed at oppressing people, these can be quite good oils to use to say, right, okay, well, I just want to examine my feelings about this, because it's very easy to say, I disagree. But the whole point of her moving through the sky and moving through our zodiac is to say, so what are you going to do about it? You know, and what is it telling you about yourself? What have you come to know? Where are you on your spiritual path? What's it bringing up for you? So I got two more pieces of paper. So this was like the keep the peace one, based on your cardamom one. So the mandarin, cardamom, and vetiver for keeping the peace in a roller ball. But also the battle cry for Eris, of how you describe the kunzia at the beginning. I've got that written down into a blend if people want to use it. So just if you feel that it is coming through your psyche and you think, I feel like I am being puppeted a bit, okay, well, how are we going to deal with that with essential oils?
I love it. I love it. Just as you're kind of wrapping up there, I was thinking about just what's in the news. And another thing, kind of theme that does encompass the Eris energy is the us and them kind of mentality. Now, you know, picking some major news themes, we look at, you know, in Europe and in other parts of the world, discussions about immigration. It's us and them. And when we look at countries like America at the moment, there's been some things happening recently where it's very much the left versus the right, or us versus them, and that kind of real separation. And do we need that separation? How do we find peace with that separation? Do we find harmony amongst that diversity, and all those different things? And what would Eris do? And what do you want to do? Do you feel that you need to be nasty to them when you are one of the others, or when you are left out, or do you need to leave people out? It's a real interesting thing. So hopefully some of the oils and some of the discussion points, and hopefully we hope to fling open the door for you to walk through and go for a bit of a meander and dive into that. One other little thing I will say that might be interesting if you're a Libran, we know that every astrological sign has a ruling planet. Now, as we started to find more planets, you know, when Uranus was discovered, Aquarius was moved to that, and when Neptune, Pisces went there, and Pluto, Scorpio went there, there has been a bit of a reshuffle. It hasn't been globally agreed on between astrologers, but the new ruling body for Virgo is Ceres, that big dwarf planet / asteroid in the asteroid belt, and that Eris could possibly be the ruling body of Libra. Now, that's a big jump to go from Venus and love to Eris and what we've been talking about today. But when you think about Libra, Libra is very much, as a typical zodiac sign, concerned about everyone else and making sure everyone's happy at the detriment to themselves. So if that helps you to kind of relate a bit more to the Eris, if you've got Libra, if you're a Libra sun sign, or you've got a little Libra energy in your birth chart, you may want to dive down this Eris rulership a little bit more and see, okay, maybe I do need to get to know Eris a little bit more as well. So that was an interesting point brought up by an amazing astrologer. She's got a website called More Plutos. Her name's Sue Kleins, and she's got a great course coming up soon. If you're interested in that, I'll pop a link down below. But yeah, really interesting looking at, okay, this Libra energy in relation to Eris as well.
Yeah, great. And hopefully we've provoked some conversations about otherness and some meditations for people to do about how do I feel about the treatment of otherness and how have I been at the behest of otherness. So yeah.
So this is obviously the first in our series of dwarf planets. How many dwarf planets are there out there? Well, astrologers and astronomers are kind of arguing on what the cutoff is, but there's at least 30 different bodies floating out there that are of significance out beyond Pluto. Are we going to tackle them all? We're not sure yet. It's based on your feedback. Did you find this unique episode really interesting? Or did you find that we just weren't talking about oils as much as you love them? So please make sure you leave a comment and share it with anyone else who loves their astrology. Maybe share it with a Libran friend. And get them to comment on it as well. And we can start to build this knowledge and help us to find new levels of consciousness and new aspects within ourselves as well. Thank you very much for joining us as we dive into Eris Astrology and awakening that aspect of, do I fit in and shut up, or do I speak up and become one of the others? We'll see you very, very soon. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye-bye.
Whoa. One more thing before you go. Hopefully, you got a little bit more excited about essential oils in this episode, and you may be running off to go buy some more. Now, before you do that, I want to talk to you about quality of essential oils. Did you know that around the world there is no regulation or governance about the labeling of essential oils? Anyone can call an essential oil pure, natural, organic, and it doesn't have to be. In fact, 75% of what's sold as lavender around the world is not even from the lavender plant. This can be ineffective in an oil, but it can also mean that the oil can be harmful for you, not only physically, but metaphysically, it's not going to work well either. So I went on a journey to find the best essential oils that I can trust, and I found doTERRA to be absolutely amazing. Not only do they test all their essential oils, but they have an independent third party test them at the end of their journey to make sure only in the bottle is what nature intended. However, if you want to get doTERRA essential oils, don't just jump on their website. Reach out to me and I'll give you a discount code so that you can get them at a cheaper price. But I don't just want you getting essential oils. I want you to learn how to use them each and every day for the body, mind, heart, and for the spirit as well. So when you become one of my customers, you get free access to a lifetime discount code. We have online portals where you can learn more, and we have giveaways and freebies and all different things like that. So I'd love you to join my wellness community. Simply click on the links below and let's get started with you using real essential oils as nature intended.